A minute over?
No. Hey guys, so that was us. And hello guys, how are you? I am Sadhan, your host for panel discussion on hospitality industry versus COVID-19. And guys, we have here with us our panelists, Matt Plapp and Heleri Rande. So guys, can we say a quick hi to them? And audience, we have our guests here right now. And guys, just a small technical check. I want to confirm with the audience and our guest as well. So can you guys hear me fine? Matt and
I'm
Hillary?
good. Yeah.
Perfect.
And audience, will someone be please so dear if they can drop a yes if they can hear me properly. So if you guys can hear me, just drop a yes. Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. We are good to go. So today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. I would like to thank both of our guests for participating in today's event, and I believe that it will greatly benefit the stakeholders right now. So let me go with the introductions first. So I have Matt with me. So Matt is a growth expert who is all about ROI and will actually help you figure out about the effectiveness of your dollar spent on advertising. He even authored a book dedicated to restaurant businesses by the name Don't 86 Your Restaurant Sales. So Matt, I sincerely believe that you are a great fit for today, and I'm
Cool.
very, really happy to have you.
Thank you.
And now we have Hillary, and Hillary is a financial whiz turned a hospitality expert and a partner of Think Hospitality Group. Given her mastery over numbers and innate passion towards hospitality, she will enrich the session like anything. So, guys, we have our amazing speakers with us, and we are all good to start. But before starting, we will have a very small show reel about some design hill customers, and then we will start. So, can I have the show reel, please?
Need to get your parents off your back? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When I started my photography business, I needed something that said this was more than just a hobby. It's not a hobby, Mom. That's why I went to design.
So guys, we have Hillary and Matt back with us, and so are you guys. So without much further ado, I will just start, and I will first move to Hillary right now. That Hillary, you must be very aware how times are changing very rapidly right now, and may not be in a very favorable way. So I just want to ask you the first, as a first question, that how entry and exit barriers have shifted during these times now. Should one divest, invest more carefully, or just postpone starting up? How are the dynamics affected by this scenario?
Well, I think it's incredibly country and region dependent because it's so heavily influenced by government guidelines. I mean, here in the UK, we still have no idea when we can reopen. They're saying July 1st, but that's not set in stone, as everything will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. So in that sense, everything is changing by the minute. So you have to be incredibly on top of your game and making sure you get the right information and are able to adapt. I think adaptability is really kind of the key word right now, what we're seeing from a lot of operators and restaurateurs and hotel groups of how they're trying to navigate this whole environment. When we look at other European countries, there's already been easing of restrictions in places like Austria, Denmark. I think Sweden in general is a completely different case study because they never went into full lockdown and never had kind of similar restrictions imposed as most other countries. Yet they did have social distancing rules, and how restaurants have gone through that and have survived and completely adapted and readapted has been really interesting. So anyone who's watching, I think make sure you look at the Swedish model a bit just to see how different restaurant groups and hospitality businesses have adapted to the climate. So in general, there's just so much information out there right now. So it's heavily region dependent and country dependent. And I'm sure Matt will give a great overview when it comes to the US, as there it's also state dependent, as I understand. So it's incredibly varied. So the best course of action is really making sure you're just constantly, following the news and see what's out there. And there are great trade bodies here in the UK. We have UK Hospitality headed by the wonderful Kate Nichols, and they have constant updates because they are in constant communication with the government of how to move forward. So absolutely, I think trade bodies are becoming a really important tool right now for any restaurateurs, especially independent operators, because they have much less coverage and shielding when it comes to strategy and way forward than bigger groups that have bigger balance sheets. So that's I think kind of the gist of it, that it's very localized in terms of country and region. I think Matt, I don't know, Matt, if you want to add from the US side.
Yeah, it varies state to state here. We have no clue what's going on in most of the states. We're unique in that we've got clients all over the United States, and so I can't pay attention to 50 states. And actually, some of the states are going county by county. So California, for example, they have different rules in every county, and we have clients in a lot of different counties. In Kentucky, where I'm at, it's the same thing, the entire state. Ohio, Indiana, the same thing. So it's all over the place. I'm just telling my clients to, keep doing what they can do best right now. Don't worry about, don't guess what's going to happen in a week or 2 or 3 weeks. Just take what you're allowed to do right now, do it the best you can, and communicate with your team and your employees, your customers online, and create a relationship.
So yeah, so basically, if I take from both of your points, Hillary is emphasizing on adaptability as well, and in the meanwhile, you are focusing on building a healthy relationship with the clients. So we actually have a question on this in the later part of the discussion. But before that, there's something which I want to know, and I'm very curious about it, because if you talk about this industry is very footfall driven. It's something which you cannot buy actually online. You have to go there, have to experience the entire service industry. And is there any way that this sector can actually anticipate this thing? Not anticipate in terms of anticipate a pandemic, but let us say if there is a possibility that we will have a lesser footfall as compared to the good days, perhaps. So is there any we can prepare it in terms of financial functions, marketing functions, or even the human resources? How should the funds flow? How should our efforts be in organizing and even administration? So how shall we go about it now? Because this scenario is changing a lot of things. So how should we go about it? Or can we do anything about it?
Well, I think it's the current situation is so unprecedented that no one really saw this coming a mile away. I mean, there were hints here and there, but I don't think any of us estimated the absolute size of this. So I think we've seen a lot of brands deal with this differently, and I think time will tell who are the ones who will survive and who are able to, like I said, going back to adapt. Talking about footfall, obviously a lot of hospitality happens within house. So you welcome your guests, sit them down. So we've seen UK is a very, very developed market when it comes to delivery. So in that sense, I think a lot of restaurants that already were operating with the delivery business as part of their overall business have probably weathered this somewhat better. And others we've seen turn to delivery a lot more, and also pickup, not just using a third-party delivery service. What I've seen in other countries is that where delivery is not as much. Was not as advanced as it is here in the UK. We saw companies come to market taking immense cuts from restaurants, already cutting into very, very thin margins to begin with. So what restaurants ended up doing is really trying to encourage people to do their daily walk or whatever to go pick up the food rather than using a delivery service. So I think the footfall is obviously a big issue and will continue to be so as the whole issue of safety and how customers, how they will feel going back to places and how many people are allowed in and all of that surrounding kind of the social distancing rules. But I think what we've seen in the last 7-8 weeks is that a lot of independent restaurants have embraced this and tried to go more online, reduce menus, make them more simpler, and also introducing cook at home ready-made packages. So you pack everything, kind of what HelloFresh is doing already, but doing on a restaurant basis. You kind of get a restaurant meal at home, but you just need to prepare it yourself. But everything has been measured and so on and so forth. So we've seen some of the higher end restaurants do that. But I think, delivery has been probably saving some companies, but again, the margins there are not great. That's what we've been seeing on this side.
Yeah, and Matt, I would love to hear your view on it actually right now on the same opinion, because whenever we focus on advertising in terms of restaurant, we actually very much focus on footfall. Sometimes we're paying forward scenario, but we focus on footfall all the time. So how do you think marketing efforts should shift right now? Because from my observation, the clients I've been working with, many of them are investing heavily in advertising right now to build a strong brand recall. So my question is now two-pronged, that how should we optimize our ad campaigns like that? And now if there's a growth of smaller players, like you talked about HelloFresh, who are going on piecemeal level now. So how can a settled industry prepare for those markets, and how can these new players be a new disruptive force?
Yeah, well,
how the marketing will be effective.
Yeah, so ironically, what companies should have been doing before this is what they should be doing right now. I've got a client in particular that we've got a lot of clients, but one client in particular was up 6% in April, and he was 75% dine-in this time a year ago. He's a sit-down casual dining restaurant that you have to drive to. There is no walking to it. And he 5-6 months ago, when we talked to him, he embraced storytelling. He embraced spending money on advertising to acquire data, not to just advertise, come get something for discount or free. We always promote every dollar you spend should be used to acquire data, then use your abilities to talk to people and drive them into your restaurant. And he's always been a storyteller. He's always done live videos. He's always had conversations with customers via Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and the stories in Facebook and Instagram. And when this all came about, it took 3 to 5 days to kind of adjust and figure out, okay, how do we do carry out food? How do we do curbside? They actually had a drive-through that they had made into a patio a year ago. So they had to rip a deck off, recreate this drive-through. And they're not a drive-through restaurant, but they adapted. And the biggest part of it that I found over here in the States, and I don't know if this is true everywhere, I would imagine it is that consumers went back to places where they felt a relationship and a connection. And like me here in the United States, I can't walk to a restaurant. It would take me an hour and a half to walk to a restaurant probably, but I can drive to about 50 within 5 minutes. And I've got the McDonald's and the Burger Kings, all the fast food restaurants. I've not been to one since this happened. And I wasn't a huge fast food person before, but I would go occasionally. Well, when I looked at the restaurants I've been eating at, it was the places where I had a relationship, where I went to Facebook or Instagram and I saw their employees. I saw the employee of the month. I saw pictures of customers. I saw videos from the owners. It was places that I felt like I wasn't just a number. And so that's what I've seen as a big thing. Delivery, third party. Ironically, I just ordered lunch for my son and me on third party on Uber Eats. It's a struggle with some of the restaurants, the costs, because there's two ways to look at it. I wouldn't order this food. I wouldn't drive and go get it and leave here for 25 minutes and come back. So the only way they're going to get my business is through that app. And yes, it's going to cost a little more. What they've done, this particular restaurant has done smarter than some others, is they don't have their normal menu on there. They have a different menu that is marked up. Like this meal that I just spent $36 on would have cost me $20 in the restaurant. But they changed the quantity size. If I went to the restaurant, I would normally get 10 wings for this amount. They now have this at 12 wings at this amount. I'm absorbing that 30% fee, which I should, because I'm too lazy to go get in my car and drive over there. Or for me, it's a convenience issue that, I can work for an hour here instead of spend time in a car going to get food. The one thing I'll say about advertising, and it's really surprised me, and I understand it, is that the instinct is to pull in, is to rein all your spending in. Where am I spending money at? We're paying Matt this, we're paying Facebook this, Instagram this. How can we rein in our expenses and absorb less of a hit? Well, then you also got to look at, what if you can prove that expense drives spending? Like one of our clients, every time he spends 43 cents on Facebook, he gets somebody to join his VIP program. Every time somebody joins his VIP program, 1 out of 3 come in the restaurant within 2 weeks. I mean, the return is I think his average check's $40. So he spends 43 cents times 3, $1.20 or whatever that's $1.32, and he gets a $40 order within 2 weeks. I think that's a pretty good investment. But the problem is most businesses, I always call it hope and pray. They've traditionally hoped and prayed their marketing work. We're going to boost a Facebook post. We're going to throw $10 on Instagram. We're going to buy some radio. Well, now it's like, okay, what if you actually knew? And that's a big problem. But I mean, advertising is cheaper right now because like in the States, 90% of the small businesses have stopped marketing, which leaves Facebook and Instagram and YouTube with a lot of inventory. And there's a lot of inventory and there's a lot more eyeballs because, people are at home a lot more often. Today, I spent a half hour outside talking to 2 neighbors that are re-blacktopping our street, and every neighbor was out there. They got nothing to do. And so they're on their phones more often. So you've got a marketing company like Facebook that has an amazing platform for restaurants that people aren't spending money on because their restaurants are closing down or they pulled the reins in. And then you got consumers who are spending 10 times more time on there. So there's all this inventory that we're seeing clients that what used to get they used to pay $1 for 6 months ago, they're paying 10 cents for right now.
And I think it's also kind of to add to what Matt's saying. I think something that maybe is probably fallen a bit by the wayside is we all say we need to communicate, but I think it's really important to build out a communication plan because especially when we're getting opening dates, it means there's going to be 30,000 restaurants opening that same week. And then that amount of communication just goes through the roof and people will not have the ability to focus on one or the other. So there's going to be a massive overload of communication by that time. So what we're seeing brands do consecutively of communicating throughout this process, and an amazing company that has come through really incredible brand is Brewdog. So they've been communicating all the time consistently about what they're doing. They're producing hand sanitizer gels in their beer breweries. They're providing free IPAs for everyone when they come back to their bars. So every day there's new initiatives, new ways, creative ways of communicating what the brand stands for. So in people's minds, they're always there. They won't forget about them. And once the floodgates open and all the other bars open as well, and restaurants in the same location, same city, there's going to be a massive overload of all kinds of promotions and come dine with us. We are doing this, we are doing that, and then it's going to be too much. So I think it has to be a staggered way. So using this time very, very wisely to have a communication plan and a marketing plan is, I think, really, really important.
So Heleri, I would like to have one more opinion on this. For example, advertising is now becoming more efficient now, as far as Matt said. And so at this point of time, should the brands invest more in advertising to get more ROAS right now, or they should actually be more efficient now? How shall the finance shift? Should they spend more or same, or?
Well, I think anything that comes to communication has to be thought through a lot more carefully now. Like I said, I think there's a communication plan that needs to be put in place, and that's not only that involves marketing and how you deal with your customers, but we're also talking about your communication with your suppliers and vendors, your communication internally and externally with your brand. So I think there's a whole lot of strategic work that should be going on right now, because we have the time. Again, looking at the UK specifically, because if the first possible date of opening is July 1st, we have more than a month to go. So I think this is the ideal time to actually focus on putting a plan in place and seeing where you're going to spend those dollars and how you're going to stagger out that time of communicating wisely and making sure that you're kind of staying true to your values and being really honest. I think that's really the key that people are the customers want from their side. I do agree that people have a lot more time on their hands right now, and they are on their devices a lot more. But I also think we've had so much digital content thrown at us in the last couple of weeks that there's this massive digital fatigue. So I have tons of people who have just, turned off Zoom calls and saying I'm just not doing them anymore. I'm doing all the crucial ones. So when we just think about people's attention spans, I think marketing has to take that, and advertising has to take that into account as well. Is making sure that this fatigue gap is part of the strategy when they build it out.
That's actually something very insightful. And Heleri, just I want to hold you a little more for that. So can you give me a sort of an example or a case study of some group or some restaurant which is doing this to perfection, or even is it not near to perfection? Any example that you would like to share with us?
Well, like I said, I think everyone should really go check out BrewDog. They released 2 days ago on Twitter the 10 things that all their bars will be doing when they're going to be opening. So they have a very clear guidance on how they're communicating this. So I think that will be a great one to look at. It's on their website now as well for each market where they have bars, because I think they have like 130 bars around the world. The guidelines are different, so they've adjusted those for each of the markets, and I think it's just been incredible. Another great group here in the UK is Hawksmoor. So it's a steak concept. They were supposed to open in New York on 19th of March or around that date. So of course that didn't happen. But another group I think that's doing extremely well in terms of dealing with the situation. So just throwing a few out there, but BrewDog's probably more globally known, and especially in their bar spaces, they're putting up partitioning walls right now and doing things very creatively. But they have this 10 kind of point mantra, and you can find it on their website.
Heleri, actually, a lot of our users are actually very keen on finding BrewDog's website. So do you mind spelling the website for us? Or I can just drop a link over here. BrewDog.
Yeah, I will. I actually have it open. We just had the. I'll just share it on the chat so people can access that. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah. So guys, I'm just sharing the link with all of you. So you can just visit this page and check it out. And of course, don't forget to check their Twitter handle as well, because that's where all the good stuff is. So do bookmark it. Okay. And before moving on, I would like to have a final question for this half actually. How is the market dynamics will change for smaller restaurants, the equivalent of mom and pop restaurants, because many of them cannot afford very expensive advertising or retention strategies even. So how will that change, and what can they do to survive?
So you're asking, have the dynamics changed as far as the abilities or the offerings for a small restaurant? I think it's playing in their hand. The big companies suck at marketing with digital marketing. You know, I can say in the States here, I've seen small mom and pop restaurants do more creative and engaging content and get more interaction than national brands. And so in the United States, like for example, there's a brand, there's a chicken brand. I won't say the name, but they're a national company. It's a fast food company. They've got thousands of chicken restaurants across the country. And their Facebook post they put up recently, there was a contest and some engagement. It had and the page has a million followers. So 1 million followers. A local business that I know did a similar promotion and had 10 times the Facebook engagement on a 2,000 person audience on their page. And the reason is that local business is a heck of a lot more creative and more in touch with their audience than a 23-year-old college grad that just got out of college that's running the social media for a giant company. From a cost standpoint, I don't think it's expensive. I think any restaurant that's not actively on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube right now spending money are crazy. You know, we had a client of ours, a one location pizza restaurant in Minnesota that for $46 got $900 in sales and 173 contacts into a database for $40. I mean, if you're doing it correctly, it's not expensive. So I think what needs to happen is small businesses need to get out of their own way. I think if they're not equipped, like I'm not equipped to make chicken wings. That's why I ordered chicken wings. If they're not equipped to run Facebook ads, then hire somebody. Hire somebody that's better. I'm not equipped to do my accounting. I have an accountant. I'm not equipped to do my bookkeeping. I have a bookkeeper. I have an attorney. I have a graphic designer. We have all those things. And I think that's one of the big problems with the mom and pop business is that too many of them are in the kitchen running their business and also trying to do their own books and also trying to do their own marketing. You know, I'm amazed the number of restaurants I've come across online. In the United States, we have some bailout programs that were put out there. It's called the PPP loan. And so basically a restaurant in the United States can get 2.5 times their payroll to use for future payroll over the next 60 days. When you go online in Facebook groups in the States, 90% of these restaurants that have applied for it don't know how to use it. And it's because they don't have a bookkeeper and accountant, which cracks me up because they shouldn't be doing that. They should be making food. And so I think there's a lot of small restaurants that what they need to do better is stop doing everything themselves and spend a little money on professionals to do it for them because the opportunity is there. They've got more, they're more nimble. They can change quicker. You talk about stories and telling the story over the next couple months. I think one of the big stories here in the States is that probably 20% of the restaurants are going to go away. And there's a lot of restaurants that probably shouldn't have been in business the last 5 years that were because our economy was so good. Like I can honestly tell you, there's a taco place down the street from my house that I crack up that it actually has its doors open up until a month ago because it shouldn't have. But because everybody had money to spend, everybody was open. So the weak restaurants look good. The good restaurants look great. The great restaurants were printing money. I've got a friend of mine who's got a restaurant that closed his doors for 60 days. He just said, you know what? I'm a higher end restaurant. I don't want to compromise my brand. My food's not made to take out. My food is made to eat here. We're closing the doors. He was financially stable for 60 days to close his restaurant. He's opened up this past week. His employees all made more money on unemployment in the United States the way the government structured it. So they were like, heck yeah, let's close. But most restaurants here aren't structured that way. They were forced, if they were knocked down to a certain percentage, they were in deep trouble. So I think honestly in the States, if you can get out of your own way, you're going to be in a pretty good place in about 90 to 120 days.
I want to add to that. I think you're completely right and I think it's also going to be a time for the whole restaurant business, I think globally, to really reevaluate their business models, right? I think very much agree with you on where they spend their money and how they're structured. Very much obviously independent restaurants trying to do as much in-house and having 3-4 roles per person of who's doing what. But this crisis shows very, very quickly that it's not a sustainable model. and that you need to think differently and revalue it and re-strategize. So I think we're going to see a lot of that happening. I think also kind of to echo what you were saying about independent restaurants, maybe somewhat being in a better position. I think when it comes to this whole aspect of community, what we see here in the UK a lot is that people have their favorite go-to places in their neighborhood. I'm living in a kind of a residential area of London, and we have our places that we love to go and want to support them. So we made sure that we've been doing that throughout the crisis, and the local the butchery shop and bakery and whatever they're open, because these are the true places where you can get great quality products, and you want them to stay post opening. Maybe some of the other random shops in between doing whatever chicken wings and whatnot that we've never eaten at. I don't think they will survive, and that probably goes to exactly, Matt, to your point, that they shouldn't have probably have been there maybe in the first place. But I think as I think the timing of how long this drags is going to be a massive indicator of how many will return when we talk about especially independent restaurants, because obviously, again, country dependent, the government support varies. Here in the UK, I think generally speaking, it has been a very decent package in terms of the support, but I think it will just depend on how long this drags on. And when and how people are able to open. So I think independent restaurants, generally speaking, are in a lot of trouble, but I think rightly so, that some of them will return much better if they can survive through this. But I think community is what will save a lot of them. And if you have supporters, so what, I don't know if it happened in the States as well, but here the first kind of 2 weeks of lockdown, restaurants started selling vouchers so that they would get cash in for spend later when they can reopen. So again, that's a bit of like, you're putting your money on, you want this place to survive and get through this. So we saw quite a lot of this happen, and a great uptake for people trying to support the restaurants they want to see be in place once the things stabilize.
Yeah, I made this comparison the other day. I turned 44 this Sunday, and I was talking to a friend of mine about a good economy and a bad economy with regards to a good business and a bad business. When I was 20 years old, I could eat whatever I wanted, exercise a little, and still feel and look fine. When I got to be 30, I had to run a little more. I had to do CrossFit 1 or 2 more days, but I could still eat kind of bad. I eat bad right now in my 40s. I better work out 10 times more every week, or it's catching up within a couple of weeks. I think this is what happened to a lot of businesses, not only restaurants, small businesses in general, is that a bad economy highlights a lot of bad things in their business. And that's just what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's something which I will take into account. And of course, as Hilary said, that some people are actually very much keen on helping businesses to survive right now. So guys, on the same lines, Designhill has launched an initiative called soslocalbusinesses.com. So I'll drop the link in the end of the presentation and in the end of the discussion right now. So what will happen is you can upload your vouchers over there, and you can promote it to your customers, and they can buy, and it's entirely free of cost. So any businesses throughout the world can be a part of it, and we would love to help you out. You can reach out on a website or anything, and we are there for you. And trust me, guys, it's totally free of cost and it's worth it. Please go ahead, and I would love Hilary and Matt to pass on the word to the community as well about this initiative which you're doing right now. And guys, before we move forward, I would like to have a short break with our guests, so they can catch they can have a breather, and then we can move on and have a couple of questions from the audience as well. So that sounds fine, Matt and Hilary?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, of course.
We posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business card,
Hey guys, welcome back. And so audiences, so before moving forward, why don't we have a couple of questions from the audience? So Xavier wants to know that have you envisioned any strategy for restaurants in beach resorts? So I would like to start with Matt, and then I'll move to Hillary for the same question. So Matt, what about beach resorts? Anything specific?
That's tough. That's a real tough one because it all depends on when people come back. I mean, because obviously I've got friends of mine that live in beach towns, beach resorts, beach communities in different parts of the world. And it's a two-pronged problem. Number one, there's no visitors. And then number two, those no visitors mean no economy locally. And so the people that are in those areas don't have any money either. You know, one of the inclinations is to, all of our visitors aren't here. Let's market to the locals. Well, the locals are all broke because they don't have jobs. So it's tough. I think, you know, I don't deal a whole lot in tourism for that reason, that it's too dependent on certain things. But I think you're going to have to find a way to survive, or at least shut down until you can survive. You can start surviving again, because until people come back, I don't know of a whole lot of options, because, you know, I travel a lot myself, and places we go that have great beach communities, except for some places in the States. Like in the States, there's places that have, areas surrounding them. But like when I go to Mexico, when we go overseas, friend of mine that lives in Aruba, friend that lives in Australia, they're isolated. That if there's no tourism, there's no nothing. So I don't know if I can give much advice there, other than to just keep telling your story and hope and pray that people come back and come back quick. and that wasn't much help.
Maybe I'll just add from my side, because I work a lot with hotel restaurants and or restaurants within hotels, to be more precise. I think just looking at it blankly, let's say a restaurant in a hotel in an urban environment versus on a beach. If people do come, I think beach resorts in some ways are in a better situation, because the more outdoor space you have right now, the more you can actually apply, use the social distancing rules to your advantage. That's what we're seeing massively here in Europe, of outdoor cafes being, people getting permits on any possible plot of land, using parking spaces and whatnot, to utilize outdoor space, because that's where you can actually be more socially distanced than indoors. But just as Matt said, to fill those hotels to begin with is going to be, I just been on so many webinars with companies like SDR who do a lot of research and data on the hotel landscape, and there's some very terrible statistics that at the 2019 levels, as we began the year, will not return until 2027 when it comes to hotel occupancy. So that's terrible, right? But I think we're going to see pockets of better stories coming through. Obviously, UK is a big feeder market to Spain, because a lot of the UK people go to vacation in Spain. And what we've seen from people here right now, everyone's waiting for flights to start. So flights is the first thing if you rely on external tourism. So it's all about when things can open and who are your main customers. Are they within country? Then you're probably in a better situation. If you're relying mostly on external tourism, that will take a longer time to resume. But I think once it does, utilize your outdoor space as much as possible, because that's where you can really have the rules of social distancing much more in place than anything that happens indoors, and make different areas and making sure that you have the right space in between, and turn previously non-utilized areas like lawns and whatnot to be part of your restaurant. So I think that's some of the advice I could offer.
I think you're muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm so sorry. So guys, I'll go once again. So there's a question by Gaurav. He wants to know that do you think we should redesign the menu or move from multi-cuisine to just the main course to reduce the SKU cost?
I think menus are so kind of to take one step back. One of our partners who works with us closely, I think hospitality, is Live Design, and they run and operate restaurants around the world and design them. And they run a lot of surveys in the last couple of weeks. And what they found is actually that so trust obviously is a big thing right now, and the trust between brand and consumer is not the one that's worse off. It's actually the lack of trust between consumer and consumer. So people don't trust other people when they start going back to restaurants, because they don't know. And there with restaurants are two things: it's cash and menus. So anything that another person might have touched. So I think we're seeing a lot of menus going cashless, just for the first part. But for menus, what we've seen is, for example, Brewdog, when you look at theirs, so they're going to do just one-time use menus, so they're going to dispose, so to make sure that those get recycled. But in terms of when you're looking at items, I think the guidance, what we are saying to our clients is reduce, because you need to simplify things. We can't have massive menus, because that means incredible stock taking and inventory. Suppliers, what we've seen from suppliers is they can't deliver the way that they used to. So it might be a 3-day delivery as opposed to a daily delivery. They might not have all the items that you need. So I think reduction is, both from a cost perspective, but also from an inventory perspective, is really, really important. So that's kind of the menu question from both the ingredient and dish side to the side.
Thank you so much, Freddy. And I guess Matt is with his buddy. Matt?
Yeah, I got to park it. Hold on a sec. Let me close the door.
Yeah, of course. Not an issue. Yeah. So on this lines, Heleri, I would love to know what is the biggest challenge that you have faced as a consultant or someone who is actively involved in this industry because you are a solution provider. So what's the biggest challenge that you have faced in figuring out a strategy?
Well, I think it's the uncertainty, right? So strategy you build for the future, but if you have no clue and all the variables will change and can change within an hour, a day, whatever, it's very hard to predict certain things. So what we're seeing with our clients is just to make sure that we're in constant contact with them. And I think when we're looking at longer term projects that are not opening until maybe 2-3 years, these can continue, but we're constantly monitoring and shifting our strategy. But I think anything else, obviously a lot of things have come to a standstill because people focus on running the business operationally and not maybe pursuing the initiatives that they have had initially thought to roll out maybe later this year or next year. So I think it's just the factor of uncertainty, like in any business, just even outside hospitality, right? So it's no one's been in this situation before. No one knows how this will will involve. Will we have a second wave or third wave? When and how will the vaccine be found? And will the antibody tests work? And et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's just so many questions that we don't have answers for. So I think the key thing for us has really been to be in constant contact. And like I said before when we chatted, is what we did with our company exactly for this reason. About mid-March when all of this began is we started a live Facebook channel called Hospo Live together with Flow Hospitality. So we're providing daily content, 8 to 9 sessions a day, anything from industry insights, similar 30-minute sessions on what you can do to reopen. We're having a lot of big brands on telling what they are doing and how they're mitigating their risks in this environment. We're hearing from world top chefs. We're seeing some cooking demos, and all of this is free content. It's about 300 videos. So I think for us, this has been our platform to communicate and making sure that we keep people engaged and motivated, because we also have to think about the mental health aspects of all hospitality staff sitting at home, people who are usually incredibly social, front of house, back of house, running the business, and all of a sudden you're confined to your small apartments, small flats, not with outdoor space, and you have to sit there hours on end. It can take a real toll. So for us, it was just to provide this content and help brands and our clients and many other people out there mitigate this and weather this storm together, so to speak. So that has kind of been our way of overcoming the biggest challenges.
Matt, anything that you would like to add on this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to trying to understand the situation as best possible. I'm in a unique position in that my career, for 10 years, I was an owner of a boat and RV dealership here in the United States. I went through September 11th, the attacks, and when the economy shut down for months. I also went through the summer of 2008 financial collapse here, where I personally lost $1 million. I know what it's like. Our business went from $1.4 million in July of 2007 to $48,000 in July of 2008. So when I hear businesses say, "Oh, we went from $100,000 to $10,000," I understand what they mean. And so part of what we've done with our business is, and I've told all my employees, is understand that they're coming from a weird time right now. They're overworked. They're stressed out of their mind. They're probably depressed. I mean, they've worked their butt off on something for 5, 10, 20 years, and a lot of them are seeing it crumble before their eyes, and they can't see what's ahead. A lot of people that have never failed or never fallen down don't understand how easy it is to get up. They don't understand how easy it is to rebound. And I think that's what's helped me and do that. And so what we've done with a lot of our clients is like Hillary mentioned, we've been in a lot of contact with our clients. We use Facebook Workplace to communicate with our clients. We text, we email. I'm driving to visit 2 of them. I'm driving 8 hours tomorrow between 2 restaurants and my house to shoot 2 video podcasts that we do, but also to just check in on 2 clients and say, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" Make sure they're okay, because this is a tough and trying time. But the big thing we've done as well is we've told our clients, hey, first thing, anything you need, don't worry about what you pay us for. You've got these 4 things that we do on a monthly basis. We've got these 50 things we can do daily. So lean on us as hard as possible, because what I learned in 2008, and again, this is for the States, every part of the world's different. We've all had different tragedies we've gone through. In 2008, when the economy collapsed here, the only people that got help were the banks and the huge car manufacturers. The small mom and pops like us got nothing. And so I look at it now, there's a lot of handouts happening in the States, which is great, but there also needs to be a lot more. So for me as a provider, we've went to our clients and said, hey, we want to help you. If you can't pay your bill, fine, we'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. We want to help as much as we possibly can. So I think that's a huge thing there, is just to be compassionate, to understand it, because there's a lot of unknowns for these businesses.
That's actually a very good answer. That we, as a customer as well, we need to learn how to empathize with the business right now. Maybe help them survive, and it actually it's a universal approach that someone on a silo cannot take. We need to empathize with the businesses right now, and after this scenario is over, there will be a day when this will be over, or we will overtake it in a very healthy manner. But there will always be a lingering fear. What if something goes down? Because some people actually are saying that it can be endemic right now, which will stay for long. It may stay forever with us. So in those scenarios, some ground realities, for example, seating arrangements might change. The psyche to come out and eat with the family might change. So is there any way we can gear up for it right now? Because that is something we know, that it's a possibility that it can happen actually. So
I think something that all kind of operators and restaurants should do when it comes to kind of these guest relations and mitigating that fear, because there's going to be a lot of it, especially like I said before, from about other customers. Because I think as a brand, you can do a lot of things to make your customers feel safe. It's a lot of signage. It's, we've seen hand sanitizer outside before you walk into an establishment, putting tables in the middle saying this is a socially distanced table just to provide room in between stuff. But I think it's all about the communication then if something does go wrong. I think one thing obviously to keep in mind is that none of us are medical experts, so you cannot as a brand give medical advice. But you need to make sure that you have opportunities to reach that advice quickly. If you have workers who speak a different language, which we see a lot in hospitality, is make sure they have, of a buddy system, so someone that can support them should they fall ill. All these kinds of things, I think you should have in place if things turn wrong. And I think this is a great time for empathy and growing of empathy as a brand and as an operator, because everyone is living in fear, your staff, your customers, yourselves. And I think it's also being really honest about it and saying things as they happen, because if you don't, your customers will if something goes wrong, and that's going to be that's going to leave a mark that's going to be very, very, very hard to rectify going forward. So I think honesty and communication is really key, because there will be incidences, we all know that, and just to make sure that this fear is reduced to minimal is being honest about it and communicating clearly.
And just thank you so much, Heleri. And before wrapping this up, I would just like to say a big thanks to all of you guys, because we nearly reached the end of the panel discussion. And it was something very fruitful and enriching to all of us. And I honestly couldn't keep track of time. It was so engrossing, at least for me. And I hope all of you guys liked it as well. And guys, our next event is tomorrow. It's about managing communications and marketing among virtual teams. So if you want to register for the event, I am dropping you the link right now, and the link is flashing on your screens now. So can you guys see the link? You can just just go ahead and book your slots, and we'll be back. And in today's session, we did get to pick brains of our industry veterans and got some actionable insights. And guys, all of you will receive the copy of this panel discussion in your inbox. So, and before we leave, Heleri and Matt, thank you so much. And anything you would like to say as audience, to the audience?
Thanks for listening. Reach out if you wanna learn more. Check out Hospital Live. There's a lot of good content out there, and we keep going, and we're global. So yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Heleri. And Matt?
Yeah, same thing. Heleri, thank you. Great insights. I appreciate you joining us. I learned a lot there. I'd say, same thing. Reach out to me. I'm easy to reach. Website's mattplapp.com. Emails matt@mattplapp.com. On every platform, I'm Matt Plapp. So reach out. I'd say the biggest thing you can do is reach out to 5 people today. Call people, call friends, reach out to them, have a candid conversation. You never know who's not doing well mentally, and tough times like this need tougher friends to help them out. So reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a few weeks and have a conversation.
Definitely, I guess all of our audience members will actually be very keen to reach out to you to get some really helpful inputs. And guys, stay updated with the events like this. So you and to stay on top of the game, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page and subscribe to our event newsletter. You can also give suggestions on the topics you would like to cover and speakers you want us to host. I'm dropping the link of the LinkedIn page in the chat section right now. And to watch this session and such wonderful events, please don't forget to like us on YouTube. And all the businesses which really want to prepare for the best, please visit soslocalbusinesses.com so we can have your workers on board and you can get them paid forward to get the cash stream flowing. So once again, thank you so much, and Heleri and Matt, and I hope you guys a safe future and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later. Thank you.